Hey y'all, it's Cam.
Hey y'all, it's Desinae.
Hey, it's Jada.
Hey, it's Jay, and you're listening to Four Deep, a podcast about four Black women in their 20-somethings who aren't afraid to get deep with it.
Oh, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at 4D Pod. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, turn on your post notifications. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to like and subscribe.
And at the end of every episode, after y'all listen, let us know what you think our deep rating was on a level from 1 to 4 deep. You can let us know on our Spotify poll. Now we be having Instagram polls, so we're on now. You can always vote there and let us know. You can let us know in our comments and our DMs, our messages, all that.
And today's topic is something that is actually really fitting for what we are all kind of feeling at the moment. It's a great reminder. And I feel like honestly, majority of our episodes kind of come at like the perfect timing in our lives. So I'm really excited to get into this one with y'all.
So y'all, we went on while we were doing potty mouth, there was a comment that we got from one of the listeners about basically like having a balance between like the good and the bad in life. And so that's the topic that we're going to get into today. And I want to give y'all a quick little example to kind of like get our idea across of what we gonna be getting into. So I want y'all to think about a rags to riches story versus a born rich story, right? People tend to appreciate the rags to riches story more. They gravitate towards it because people who have experienced being at the bottom appreciate being at the top more than someone who's always been there. So, we have to go through those lows and climb our way up to the top to really appreciate those highs to the greatest extent. And that's really what makes life the most fulfilling. So if a heart monitor goes straight line, you're no longer living. So life is really through living life is like really going through both those ups and those downs. Because like if you always at the top, it's gonna feel regular. It's gonna feel like nothing.
Yeah.
But if you work to get there, you know what I'm saying? If you hit a low and you work your way back up to where you feel like you need to be, you're gonna appreciate that so much more. You're gonna be proud, you're gonna be fulfilled, you're gonna feel really good. And that's the feeling that we always want to get back to.
Wow, that's deep.
Great
For real. Like
intro, great intro. No, yeah, I agree too, but I also do think like sometimes when you're going through those downs too, it'd be like, dang, like where's the up? Or dang, this is a real low down, low down. So it's hard to kind of like keep your eye on the prize. But sometimes, what helps me is just like looking at past examples of where I've been low and like how that's brought me up. And that I always say like if I got through that, then I could definitely get through this. Or like if somebody else they going through that or they went through that before and they got through it, then maybe I can too. And so it'd be hard for sure, navigating those downs to even get back up for real. It's a struggle. Um, I feel like, but I've just been learning different ways, like try to how to cope with it and get through them and all that good stuff. So yeah, how do y'all feel about? Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, you know what they say, if you hit rock bottom, the only way is up.
yep.
So if you ever feel like, you know what I'm saying, like you that low and like you hit the bottom of the barrel, you know what I'm saying? It can't get no worse than that. You know what I'm saying? The only way is up. That's like I've heard so many people in my life say that phrase specifically. Like, man, I'm doing bad right now, but the only way is up. And I'm like, you know what? You absolutely
Right.
right. You absolutely right. So that's something that like sticks with me. Like when Jay started saying that, that was like the first thing that I instantly thought of. Like, well,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? When you get there, it's the only thing that you can do is try to work your way up. If you do hit that bottom, just don't stay there. Just
Yeah.
don't stay there. That's like the biggest thing. Like I know like when I'm like feeling really low, the first thing I think to myself is like, okay, what I gotta do to get myself out of this state? Like, what are some things I could do? Like, what's the next step? Um, that's like just start figuring out what you can do to get out of it. And I feel like that also helps with like, so being low can sometimes cause, like anxiety and like depression and stuff like that. And I feel like one of the best ways to like work through like that anxiety, that fear of, like being stuck down wherever you at, is to work towards getting out of that position.
Right.
That's like the only thing that will make you feel calm. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm down bad right now, but I'm gonna get better. This is the plan, and I'm gonna get better. And even just having faith that it will get better.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things like really work for me when I feel like I'm in a bad place.
Yeah, I was even thinking about like Des, when you gave that visual representation of like a heart monitor going up and down, like if we think about what valleys really are in nature, they have to be in between two mountains. So knowing that if you're in a valley, the next thing
Is a
right
mountain.
next to you is a mountain. So you have to also remember those things too when you are in that position, and it kind of just keeps hope, it keeps faith, and those valleys are the moments where we're building character. That's when we're building that perseverance. That's when we're really learning the lessons that we need to learn in order to help us in a different season of our life.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you're going from mountain to mountain to mountain, like the only way to get to those is either to fly or to go through the valley. So going through that valley will prepare us for the next mountaintop. And honestly, what we go through it, we might be getting things that is specific for that next mountain. So like, for example, if I didn't go through certain financial hardships when I was younger, I wouldn't be able to sit here and be the budget coach that I am today. It just wouldn't be the same. I wouldn't come at it from the same perspective. I wouldn't be able to relate to my coaching clients. Like, it all really does play a big part. And I can sit here and be like, oh, I wish I never went through those things. And why am I going through this? Even till today, I'm still going through things financially. And it's like, well, why? And it's because it's giving me another tool under my belt to be able to help out my clients with. And so I have to remember to appreciate those things, because ultimately I'm appreciating the outcome of what it's bringing me. It's the lessons and the tools that I can use, not necessarily like where I'm at, but what it's producing in me.
That made me think of something too, like how everything can kind of like be used for your purpose, but also like in other people's purposes as well. Because you just don't know how whatever it is that you do to either navigate your lows, or the fact that you were in a low and you made out of it, how that can like impact somebody else going through something similar. Or how like that can be used to them. Like if you think about your friendships, like how a friend might need your support when going through something similar, and it's like you have the ability to be able to like coach somebody through that. And it does make a difference to have somebody that you can relate to when you're going through something like that. Um, but I'm kind of like Jada in the sense that I'll always try and remember that like those low moments are those like that's the ones where there's lessons to be learned. Those are the refining moments that are going to make me better. Those are the ones that are going to equip me for my future and where I'm supposed to go next, and moments that I may not even be thinking about. Like, I have no consideration of what this could possibly be for. I just know that it has to be. It has to be. It just got to be good.
Yeah.
It just has to be. It can't be for no reason. It just literally cannot be. But I also have to be real too. Sometimes it just sucks. So I'm gonna complain a little bit, and I'm gonna cry a lot of bit, and I'm gonna when people ask me how I'm doing, I'm gonna vent a whole lot more of it. Like I'm gonna have those moments where it's just I don't want to be positive right now. And if you're trying to be positive, get it away. Get it away. But then I'm gonna have those moments where I come back and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to be for real. Like I'm ready I'm ready to work through this. But sometimes I have the moments where I'm just like, I just need to sit in this for a second. I just need to feel it. I just need to feel it. So it's a mix of both. It's a mix of both for sure.
Yeah. Definitely sitting in them emotions and not just like trying to ignore how you feel, because we're human. Like we're gonna feel the need to complain. We're gonna feel the need to be frustrated, confused, not, sure why we're going through what we're going through, which is all those feelings are valid and normal. And sometimes we gotta sit sit in them lows too sometimes and not dwell on them or, you know, allow ourselves to stay in the funk we're in. But you got to sit and process your emotions sometimes because you want to make sure that when it is time to start working your way back up, that you can at least know that, okay, I went through this and I handled my emotions and I know where that came from. I know why I felt that way. I mean, I know why it happened, but I've been able to process, you know, what I was feeling or what I am feeling. So, yeah, definitely not like being stagnant in the low either. Like you can be there and be working on it and, you know, working through it, but just, you know, try. And it's definitely easier said than done. Because when you be in that low, sometimes I just be wanting to lay down, not talk to nobody at all about nothing. But you gotta give yourself an extra push and also talk about it with other people too. Like that's one way that I usually like get through them. I talk it out. Like I'm gonna tell myself I need to lay down, I need to cry it out, I need to talk it out. And then usually after I do that, like slowly but surely, I get out of, you know, what I was going through. But yeah, I think my major thing is like talking it out. I'm not really a journaling type of person when it comes to that. That's not how I cope, but I would say like talking it out, which is also why it's important to have people around you who you trust.
Yeah.
And you know, you always can talk to God for sure. He'll get you through it. But also having those conversations so God can like literally like speak to you through your friends and your family and your loved ones. So you have to make sure you look at your circle and make sure you're surrounded by people you trust. So when those times do come, you know that there's at least one person you can lean on when you're going through it to help get you out that rut. Because again, we're human. We are not individualistic beings. We need other people to help us get through life. So if you need to lean on somebody else, get to leaning because that's what they're there for sure. And if your friends or family aren't there to support you, then it's time to snip for real. So yeah, but yeah, that's how I usually handle my lows for sure and work my way on up.
That I want to say there were like two times in college where I realized like I was in the valleys, okay? I was definitely in the valleys. And today, like looking back, like I understand why all of that had to happen. But at the time, girl, I was
Not so
down
much.
bad. I was down bad. Don't want to say freshman year of college. I I was so scared. I was so lonely.
Mhm.
I was so
Yeah.
depressed. And I just felt so isolated. And at the time, I didn't really understand like why why God put me in a position of like isolation.
Mm,
Um, and looking back at it today, it's kind of just like, well, first and foremost, when I first got to college, I was humbled. And that was something that
girl,
I
fast.
definitely needed. I'm gonna say that because yeah, in high school, I thought I was, and not even that I'm not, but just like I was definitely like I needed to be humbled. Okay. I was humbled by my grades, by however I thought my social life should be or would be. Like
Mm,
I was humbled, but that was something that I needed because my character was flawed. Not that I'm not still flawed, but I mean like I used to be a different person back then. Okay. Um, and also being in that isolation, I kind of needed to learn, how to be alone and how to appreciate solitude. I had always grown up with family around me 24/7. There was always somebody with me, whether it's my little sister or my big brother, like I always had somebody with me. And I was scared to be alone. And that's like, you shouldn't be scared to be alone. Like, you should appreciate solitude. So I feel like God put me in those positions so that now I can be comfortable with that. And if ever need be, if I need to be alone, I'm good with that. Um, and I realized that going through college, and then I want to say I hit another valley, maybe like my junior year, and I was like so hurt. And this is going back to like what Cam and Jay were saying when for like 3 days, I just like sat in it. Or matter of fact, no, actually, I tried to avoid it. I tried to avoid it. That was not working out for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like one day where like I just couldn't even fight it no more. I just sat in my room. I just sat from like night till dark and just let myself feel everything. Like I occasionally like I'm just looking at the walls. Like ain't no TV on, ain't no lights on. I'm,
Mm.
literally I'm just watching the walls change color as the sun goes down. And I'm just feeling all these emotions and I'm sitting there like dang, like you are down bad. But at the same time, once I like got out of it, my first thing was, okay, how are you going to heal yourself now? Like, what steps are you going to take? Like, what are you going to start doing? And I feel like that valley in particular was the valley that kind of made me to who I am today because I wanted to stop being so depressed. I picked up a book. I picked up a self-help book. It was called Winning the War in Your Mind. Yeah, it was a war going on in my mind. I was down bad. But that book like genuinely helped me. And I feel like it really changed my life and showed me the power of reading. So I feel like I had to go through that low for me to even I hated reading. If I hadn't went through that, I would have never picked up a book again. I thought after college, like
Yeah.
I'll never pick up a book if I don't have to. Now I do it to learn. You know what I'm saying? Now I do it to stimulate my mind. Now I do it to help myself whenever I need to learn anything. I'm willing to pick up a book. Um, and the reading too has just changed my character, shaped kind of like a lot of who I am today. And I'm proud of that. And now I'm just understanding like why I had to hit rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very rewarding when I climbed my way back up to the top and got my mind back right. So I want to ask y'all, when was a time where you were in the valley, you didn't understand why it was happening, but then you came to the realization like, dang, that had to happen. So this could happen.
Great question.
Girl.
Um, I would say one of the main things it would be like that transition. Well, really it was like transition from high school to college and even like it was even before like college because I had my mindset on what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, what schools I wanted to attend, that kind of stuff. And like Dad said, you get humble real quick. And my humble moment started before I even stepped on campus. To make a long story short, UCSD was not even of my top 4 free UCs that I could apply to. And my mom, she was like, hey, like just apply here. And, they have a good program. This will be one I'll pay for. I'm like, all right, bet. And even through the midst of all that, life was life bad. And so my dream schools was UC Berkeley and Stanford. And your girl didn't get into neither one. And so I was defeated. I'm like, what do you mean? Like I've worked this hard all my freaking life to get here. Like, why wouldn't like what's up? And so just looking back and now like I'm seeing like I wouldn't even be in the position. And it's hard to say that because I'd be like, God, you have all that, whatever. But being practical or whatever, I wouldn't be in the position I am now if I didn't even step foot on UCSD's campus. Like it has opened up so many doors for me, so many opportunities. It has allowed me to grow in ways where like I never even imagined. Like the roles that I have today were never roles that I dreamt of having. Like yeah, like the things that I aspire to be are not the things that I am today. And so it just helps me show like even my job that I work at now, like that was not a place that I was looking to work at. Didn't even know the place existed, to be completely honest. And even being here, like it's been such a positive experience, a growing experience. I've met so many people, like so yeah, it's definitely hard like when you're in the moment and you're getting those no's and those rejections and those, people dropping out of your life and new things happening that's throwing you off. But looking back and certain, there's still some things today where I'd be like, I don't know why that happened. I'm still trying to figure it out. But there's a lot of things where I can definitely look back on and be like, okay, that makes sense. And I'm glad that it went the way I did. And it just goes back to like, us trying to like have control over things. And if we really look at it, like the things that we had the least control over are more than likely the things that are really like prospering in our lives right now because it wasn't in our plan. And it just goes to show like not how foolish, but how, um, I'm gonna just use foolish for lack of a
Foolish. Yeah, foolish.
but how foolish it can be to really be like so set on a plan for
Yeah.
yourself. And so yeah, it's also trying to figure out that too still like how to have a plan and be driven and working towards goals, but also being like, hey, like it's not my plan at the same time. But yeah, I say all that to say there have been lows and there are a lot of things that I can look back on and be like, I'm so grateful that it went that way because it's made me like who I am now. And it's brought the people that I have in my life to me now. So yeah, that's one example in the midst of many other examples of like an up and down and like why it was worth it.
I can say for me, uh, the top two that I can think about is when I went to Houston thinking I was going to move out there right after college.
Mhm.
And I mean, I went on a complete apartment tour, and everybody was like, no, 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 no. You thought that your plan was going to work, but no. And I was kind of like bummed out. Like, I thought that this was really the state that I was going to move to. That was the plan, like Jada said. Like, we have a plan and we want to stick to it. Um, but I was just like, you know what? Like, this is not working out for me. God has something better for me. Like, this is just a redirection. And I definitely am very grateful that I moved to Virginia instead of Texas.
Mhm.
Because the relationships that I built with my family members that are out here
Mhm.
are so much more valuable than what I thought I was missing out on
Yeah.
by going to Texas. Like, I really don't even know why I wanted. I think everybody just was going, and I was like, bet. So I definitely see why he wanted me out here, like from the church home that I have to the friends that
Right.
I've met to just everything. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Hmm.
The second one would be when I got fired. I've never gotten fired from a job ever. Ever. And so I was just really like, what? But to most people, when they hear about it, they would be like, oh man, that must have been a hard day. Nope. I was so peaceful that day. I mean,
Literally.
I was chilling. I was chilling. While he was literally telling me to go pack my stuff up and go home, I was sitting there smiling at this man because I knew that it was honestly, this was God's plan. I was like, I just
Hmm.
I just know it. And I had so much faith in that didn't move me. I didn't even entertain the idea that this was a negative thing. And I definitely feeling that faith and having that and really keeping that faith was the thing that allowed me to see how everything like worked together and that this was actually a blessing in disguise for me to then be put into full-time entrepreneurship. And man, I adored the time that I had, the couple months that I was there. But ooh, that was something that I could say was that could have been perceived as a low, but for
Hmm.
me, it was definitely a high.
Yeah. Yeah. And if y'all haven't listened to like that, I think that was season one era for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to season one and find that potty mouth or something where Jada was talking about her losing your job. Like just seeing, and I'm glad y'all were able to see it because like now you
Yeah,
can really see, but seeing how you handled that was just like wow, like the faith was there. Like there was literally no worry. Like she was like, yeah, I quit my job. And then instantly the sentence right after is like, but I'm not sad about it. Like, it's just like, oh, okay, let's celebrate. So yeah, it was definitely a moment. So yeah, go back to season one. So you can feel some of that energy live and raw.
for sure.
I feel like one thing I'm hearing with everyone's stories is to like your emotions are like valid, but how you respond to like your emotions in your situation play a role about how you ultimately leave that situation. Whether or
Yeah.
not you leave it, the condition that you leave it in, and the direction that you're going when you leave it too. It's like so important to kind of like be mindful that like this you just have to remember that this is like temporary.
Yeah.
One of my situations, and I think about me and my mom were just talking about it while she was visiting me. We were laughing about it because I had this friend that I had known like pretty much all my life. She was one of like my first friends ever in life. We don't even remember the exact moment we met. That was how long we had been friends for. And we were laughing because she was like, she would stress you out. Like you would be in tears over this friend. And like every week it was like something, you and this friend were like falling out. Like it was always something. Um, and it was a lot. In retrospect, we can laugh about it now, but I was in shambles over this friend
Oh,
because her friendship and her validation had meant so much to me, like to the point
yeah.
that like I was always going to be the person who apologized first, even if I wasn't wrong.
Mm.
Um, I remember one time she had told me too, she was like, she told me that I was a pushover, and I was, because like she would literally, whatever she wanted to do, we would do it. Cause that was my friend and I didn't want to lose like my friend, and I
Oh,
valued her opinion so much. And like there would just be little things. Like I remember one time we went to a summer party, and she got mad because like I slept in a specific spot that she wanted. And it was like a whole thing. She like iced me out, didn't speak to me. And I remember just doing the absolute most to get her to try and speak to me again. And
oh my
that was the
God.
dynamic of our friendship. Like where she knew exactly what to like do to get me to respond in the way that she wanted me to respond. And I do it every single time. And this went on for years. We were friends. We stopped being friends my junior year of college. And
Mm.
my junior year of college was when I finally was like, no, I'm not doing this game with her anymore.
Yeah. Dang.
Um, and it was off of something small. Her feelings were very valid in the situation. We had a friend group and all of us left the city for careers, college, just various things. Um, but she still was in Victorville.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and pursuing her own path, and she just kind of felt like we like moved on with our lives and like left her behind. And mind you, like we still would come back home, like reconnect and all of us hang out, but she would feel really left out. And so there was this one specific situation where me, my cousin, and one of our friends, who lived around the corner from her in my old neighborhood, because we all used to live in like the same neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
um but we had all went out like Black Friday shopping or something like that. And I think like we had been posting it on Snapchat or something. Just like we didn't even think anything about it. It was just me and my cousin always would go do stuff together. And then he hit our friend up and was like, hey, you want to come? And then it just
Yeah.
was that. We didn't put too much thought into it. But she was really, really hurt over that. And it just kind of like spiraled, if I remember correctly, into like just more things, to the point that like we didn't remember how it happened, but like somebody came and was like, yo, we think she's talking about y'all on Twitter, some of y'all. And so like it just became this whole thing where she was talking about us. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not, because
Simple.
normally me, I would hit her up like, oh, what's going on? Like, why are you doing this? Let's talk, like da 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 da. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Right.
Like, I'm not doing this game with her. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. And we literally never have spoke since then. It wasn't even like an end of our friendship. It just was like,
Dead.
and so in retrospect, like for me, it was like a one extreme or the other. It was like I
Mm-hmm.
either am too invested and I just don't know what to do about it, which was the pattern for very long, or I just walk away from it because I don't want confrontation. There was no middle ground for me. And so
Mm.
I just walked away from the friendship. And years later, I would think back to it like I probably could have addressed that situation, and I probably should have, to be able to speak up for myself. That would have been the real
Mm.
response to it rather than avoid it, because that was the one thing I still never did for myself in that friendship. And that probably could have turned into something else. But the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, I learned a lot about myself
Yep.
in that moment. One being that like I felt like that was kind of like one of the main reasons why I became such a people pleaser. Not to say she's responsible for it,
Yeah.
but it surely wasn't helping
Yeah.
because it made me realize that like I would allow people, whoever they were in my life, to hold such a space, such a critical space, that like I wouldn't, like all my actions would revolve around trying to maintain this relationship or trying to maintain people's opinions of me or trying to maintain peace and no conflict. And it was exhausting to the point that it was like I'm ignoring what I need in the situation, and
Yeah.
that's not fair to me. And then honestly, it's not serving this friendship or this relationship any good at all, because if I'm not being authentic, then you're not getting a real version of me. And then I feel like I mentioned this before where we were talking about like people pleasing is like soft manipulation. Like you don't mean to be manipulative, but essentially you are being manipulative in the sense that you're not being honest and
Yeah.
you want this person to believe that you're okay with X, Y, and Z when you're really not, but
Yeah.
you just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in this situation, in that moment, losing that friendship, it just did nothing about that situation occurred that it was going to be for my good. It honestly just felt like, you know what, whatever. Like I just can't do this anymore. And I walked away, and I don't think I ever really like processed that or like realized what that was until maybe like more more so in like recent years, when I would hear like people say, oh, I ran into her around town, or hey, like I talked to her, or one time she actually came up on my For You page, um and she was talking about her mom's health issues, and I realized like that's still somebody that I cared about, because I was like asking my mom like, hey, have you heard, like is she okay, like I can't hit her up to ask about how her mom is doing, but I still do care. And I remember hitting our friend group up like, hey, I know we don't talk about sis anymore, but y'all mind saying a prayer for her mom? Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's something. Um, but yeah, it was one of those moments where I realized, like, okay, I really do have to make a better, a better effort in trying to stand up for myself and to be vocal and to demand what's right in friendships. And also too, our dynamic was a little dysfunctional because we would talk about each other and all this type of stuff, because then it was like I would walk away from the situation being hurt, and then I would go vent to somebody, but venting was not really venting, it was gossiping and all types it was just real. And then I would hear stuff that she was saying about me. Like our friendship was just,
It was a hot mess.
it was a hot mess. It was really a hot mess. And so I realized in college, when I was making new friends, it didn't occur to me right away, but later on I'm like, I carried out those patterns with people who didn't deserve that. And so I'm like, okay, I'm never going to have real and true friendships if this is how I operate with them. Like that's not healthy. So ultimately going through that was like, it taught me how to be a better friend. It taught me to be better to myself. Um, and I didn't deserve any of that. And I know that there are things that I did to her that she did not deserve. So not to say that that relationship was right, but it's just one of those things where you learn from the tough lessons for sure.
Oh, yeah, that made me a little sad. Friendship breakups are so.
Right, it really is. It really is. And it's
Wait,
like,
what episode is that? Shout out to that episode.
oh yeah, I forgot that was like season 1, wasn't it?
Two?
1, 2.
What was it?
Two?
Acquaintance? What was it?
No, season 2 when we were talking about
Was it the love one?
yeah, and you were talking about like, like the being proud of yourself for, not being the people pleaser no more, for not,
Okay,
you know.
Maybe I don't remember what
maybe.
episode, child.
We had like 2 episodes about friendship, so I don't
We
know if
say a
you
lot
love
of
that
things.
too.
At this point.
But just watch all the episodes. How about that?
Right. How about
And
that?
the friendship breakups were hard. They're definitely not. They're definitely not easy. I've had 2 friendship breakups where that were like, that shit sucked, but it needed to happen, and I learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
And that's the second friendship breakup made me think about that main my long-term friend breakup, and I was like, wow,
Mhm.
it's just like it's just patterns, and I'm like, okay, this obviously is meant for me to learn because it's coming back
Yeah.
again in a different person, like in a different font.
Mm.
Like there's
Oh,
something
fine.
I'm not grasping from it, but I'm gonna get it this
Yeah.
time.
Please. Like, it's like, God, okay, I'm gonna try.
And so far, so good.
And see, that made me think about what you said about like It's about like your feelings are valid, but it's about how you deal with that and how you come out of that. Like obviously, like the situation could have ended differently. You know what I'm saying? Had she not went to Twitter or had you reached out, but like no matter what direction it goes into, you're gonna come out of that and you're gonna learn something from that. And then you just gotta trust that stuff happened the way it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
just what it is.
Yeah.
I
exactly.
liked how
So
you said it was mainly about like perspective,
Mhm.
because that's another thing that I heard across the board when we were sharing our stories, that yeah, it could be like a hard time or a valley or a low moment, but it's really the perspective that you have that's gonna see, it's gonna basically dictate how well those scars heal, right? And it's gonna dictate how you actually use the things that you went through in that next season. And so instead of saying like, "Oh God, why me?" instead just be like, "God, like what do you want me to learn in this
Mhm.
moment?"
Mhm.
And that's going to change the entire perspective of the situation, and you'll be able to make the better decisions in those moments, and you'll be able to think about it on a deeper level. There's a deeper meaning, there's a deeper purpose. And I think I seen it somewhere on Instagram where it was like, God doesn't allow us to go through pain like in vain or like without purpose. And that was something that I would always kind of like repeat to myself, because I'm like, that's true, and he uses everything. And so it really does just help me shift my perspective. And that's the main thing that I have to look at. And then my dad used to tell me too, he's like, okay, well, how are you looking at it? Like, do you want to just sit here and continue to like lick your open wounds, or do you want to like start healing?
Mhm.
And I think that this is something that I'm going to continue to implement, because child, the downs are inevitable. They're going to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because you know that they're going to come, you just have to like suit up, bro, and learn the patterns, see your patterns, look at them, and know exactly how you're going to deal with it and what to run to the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that suit
Um,
up.
oh, me.
No, I said I like that suit up.
Oh, I thought you said scooter. I was gonna say, oh, me, you can't hear me.
Food up is crazy.
Oh, but I did want to touch on one more moment that I realized, and this touches too, like me and Jada actually have similar backgrounds. And, I grew up without money. And for a long time, I would feel so bad for myself, about that, growing up. And I would go to schools with like people who did have money, and I would be embarrassed about the car we pulled up in, or like whatever the case. Like when I was younger, it was just like, dang, like, why do me and my family have to be going through this? Like, that's genuinely how I felt. And as I got older, I kind of just realized that I feel like God wanted to use me for something else, and he wanted to shape my core values at an early age. Like I'm not, like a super materialistic person. I'm not the person that'll like, do anything for money. Like I'm genuinely, trying to find something fulfilling and something purpose driven that I can do for money. I feel like I learned a lot through, and I'm very empathetic. Um, I'm very understanding. I, show people love. I try not to judge people. And I definitely feel like all of that comes from, being in a place where people have the ability to judge me, or, I was in a not so favorable place. And while it was low, at the time, I'm proud of like, kind of like who I am today. And I'm proud of like the values that I hold. And honestly, I don't know who would I be if I grew up any other way. You know what I'm saying? Like you never really know that. Like who would I be? And so that was just like another low where like at the time I didn't understand. But like today, I'm actually, I'm happy I've gone through everything that I've gone through because it shapes me. It's who I am.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I would say oh Jada, were you gonna say something? Oh, okay. I would say like to just, wrap what we've all been talking about, send everyone, because we've talked about the lows we've been through, how we deal with them, and kind of like, okay, now we know those weren't the last low wasn't the last low we had wasn't our last one. So just to leave, everyone off with like something to remember when they do get back in that position, embrace it because that means another high is coming. But we talked about a scripture, 1 Kings 18, which is pretty much the story of, long story short, there was a drought, and instead of, dwelling in it and not being faithful or not having faith that the drought, that, they were going to come out of the drought, they're just preparing, for when the rain did come. And so I think that definitely, relates directly to like being in those valleys and looking forward to our ups. Like when you are down, and when you feel like you don't have anything or there's nothing to look forward to or everything you've been praying for is not coming, it's just empty, stagnant, don't know what to do, low of the low. Like use that time where you feel stagnant or where you feel like nothing is going on to prepare for that high that is coming, because it's gonna come. It's gonna come. Who knows when? But if it takes longer to come, like sometimes I'll be like, well, if it takes longer to come, that just gives me more time to prepare. So when it does happen, I'm ready. Like actually give me a few more days because I need more time to prepare. So when you are in those lows, just, like whether it be from, oh, I don't have a job right now, or whether it be from like, I just don't feel like getting out of bed, like prepare for that moment when you do get out of bed. Prepare yourself mentally. Like when I do get up, I'm gonna be ready to get up. Or when I do get that job, or when they call me for that interview, I'm gonna make sure I got that suit ready, them heels ready. Like they might have it on the bed waiting. So when that time comes, you're ready for it. So whenever those lows come, or you feel like, things are not looking up and you're just in this place of nothingness, you feel like, use that time and that empty space you feel like you're in to prepare for, the abundance and the greatness. That's kind of what I've been trying to dwell in and practice lately. It's like I always say, it's easier said than done, for sure. But it's helpful to just have in your mind when you're going through that stuff. So I'm gonna do that little sprinkle.
Yeah, that's a word. Okay, it made me smile.
Literally. Yeah.
Do we have any affirmations to leave the audience off with?
Did have one.
Okay.
I did have one. So this was one that I have found on We the Urban's Instagram account. They always be posting some great quotes. I'm scrolling trying to find it. Here it goes. So, one of the posts was, relax, your story is not finished. You are not trapped. Your capacity to overcome is limitless. Time is on your side, and there is so much more life to live. So just kind of like a reminder that every dead end that you think is truly not a dead end. It's a plateau. It's a moment to, like Jada said, it's a moment to prepare. It's a moment to get ready for what's coming next, because there is so much more to your story. It's so much more to what's coming for you, even when you can't see it coming.
And I would say too, when you in your ups, celebrate them ups, girl. Celebrate. Thank God for them. Like, please, because you was praying for this moment. So when you in it, be grateful for it. Be like, pat yourself on the back. Thank God. And realize that you deserve it. You don't went through it all. So you deserve to celebrate being up too. Don't let anybody dim that light either.
That's important.
And like the extremes don't define you. Like your lows alone do not define who you are. Your highs alone do not define who you are. It's both in combination that really create your right now and your character and all that and how you show up. So don't just look at one aspect and highlight that. Really look at all of it in totality for who you are and like what you represent.
That was a good one. I think I need to write that down, put it up on my wall. Like for real, for real. The lows do not define you was one thing, but the highs don't define you either. Yeah.
We should be the totality of it.
Let me go write that down. For real.
Well, What y'all rate this episode?
Yeah, I feel like it was a
Maybe like
3.
a 3 deep. 3.5.
I say 3.5.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna give it like a 3. I feel like it was good, but I feel like we definitely could have been a little deeper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
wasn't that emotional per se, but it was,
Yeah.
but it was,
Yeah,
But
it
still
was
very
good.
valuable.
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
Still a
Yeah.
lot of takeaways,
Yeah.
Hoping
Yeah.
that this gets to the right person that needs to hear it at the time that they
Yeah.
need to hear it too, because hey,
It's
we
hard.
all need a little bit of encouragement
Mm-hmm.
from day to day. Cause hey, you might have a low coming tomorrow. Let's be real. We don't know
Girl.
what
Be real.
life life got its own, I don't even know, its own plans. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't neglect.
God forbid. I hope nobody's
Yeah,
low
God
God
tomorrow.
forbid. Amen.
But somebody gonna have one somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
So hey, embrace it.
Well, that wraps it up.
Yeah.
Any final words?
Nah, just, if you sit in here, like, give us a like, a follow, a subscribe. We on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Twitter,
Also, share
TikTok.
too. Share us with a
Yes.
friend, with a family member, with somebody
Yes.
that you randomly talk to while you're on vacation in the pool, and you're like, "Hey, this reminds me of an episode that I heard of this podcast that I listened
Yes.
to." That goes a long way too. So yeah,
Yeah, for
And
sure.
comment down below an example of a hard time that you went through that you now appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for listening.
Thanks, y'all.